apply it in a way that fits my lifestyle. And I haven't tracked a calorie since then because of how compulsive I was and how detrimental it was. But I took the philosophies. What I did learn was the portion sizes, how much protein is going to be in this meal, how many carbs are going to be in this meal, because I was so compulsive. And now I was just like, okay, I stay right around 208, 215. I feel comfortable. I maintain a good body composition, and I don't track calories because of what I learned. I was like, this is what's going to fit my lifestyle now.
Right. Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of Inspired by the Inspired podcast. Today we got a special guest, Jonah Mitchell, an actual close friend of mine who helped me along my own fitness journey as well. Jonah's a fitness coach, a nutritionist. He has a passion for helping people transform their lives. I think you guys are going to learn a lot from him. Jonah's going to be sharing his story with us today, discussing how he used his own personal experiences to inspire others to make positive changes in their lives. He will also be sharing, tips, advice on how you can start living towards a healthier life for yourself as well. We're going to go over a bunch of challenges, obstacles that people face, things that they'll face along the way and how to overcome those. But whether you're a beginner or an, experienced fitness enthusiast, I think this episode will have something for everyone. So I hope you guys enjoy. Sit back, relax, join us as we chat about Jonah Mitchell and his journey on episode 4 of Inspired by the Inspired.
All right, everybody ready? 3, 2, 1.
And welcome back for episode 4 of Inspired by the Inspired show. Today we have Jonah Mitchell on today. He is a fitness coach and nutritionist. Please welcome. Introduce yourself and let us get to know more about you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Thanks, CJ and Sean, for having me. I'm really excited. Me and CJ go way back, so
for sure.
The fact that this worked out that really excites me. So yeah, I've been a coach for 4 years now, and it's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever been able to do, because it really started with my own personal development and figuring myself out. Because if you can't really help people if you don't really know yourself all that well. You can't help yourself. You can't help people effectively. Right. And that's another topic. But yeah, I've been studying since 2019 to really, my ultimate goal was to help people in any case scenario with whatever they had going on, nutritionally, ailments, autoimmune disease. I just wanted to understand everything that I possibly could, because when I started to understand myself, health and fitness really opened the door to a world that I never even knew existed.
Right.
And that's been so inspiring to me to be able to have all these realizations. That's what really fueled my passion to continue to learn and understand. Because I was not the school person, but I had a lot of things that kept me in school that, if without them, I wouldn't have ended up where I was, Right. And we were talking a little bit off air about where I come from. I grew up an athlete. Me and CJ played. Yeah. That's how we met when we were kids, playing football together.
Rebels football.
Rebel Red, man.
Didn't go very far, did it? Huh?
Okay. I was the youngest one on the team, so I was always playing up. So
that's funny. That's right.
I always had to look up to CJ, and now I'm 6 inches taller. So.
Jonah.
But you mentioned that you had college. Mm-hmm. Did you go to college football, or did you? Yeah, exactly. Tell us more about that.
So I played. I was always an athlete growing up, and I was lucky enough to, even though I never believed it, get the opportunity to go play football. I always thought what's the catch here? I'm not going to be able to make it that far. And I was very fortunate to get an offer to actually play here in Colorado, in Gunnison. Nice. And small mountain town, super cool, Western Colorado University. I learned a lot there. But that's kind of where my own personal development, well, not where it started, but that was my gateway to really understanding the world, right? Sports was it's still how I think to this day, of what helps me make sense of a lot of things. And as I was going through football, I used football for a lot of things that I didn't have answers for,
right?
And that through my own starting of my personal development journey in 2019, and I lost football in 2018. That was kind of the spark to do it because playing college football was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much fun. I had so many aspirations that I wanted to accomplish, but I was never quite there. When we first getting to know each other, I struggled with my weight towards the end of my career, but the vast majority of my life, I was the smallest guy on my team. Like, and I was a defensive end, so you're going against 300-pound guys every single play, and I'm barely at 200 pounds, and it was just so difficult. I was always able to be faster. Right, that's what really helped me get through high school and get spotted and start in college. I was a 3-year starter after my 4-year starter after my redshirt year, and it was so exciting to kind of like punch everyone in the mouth who told me I couldn't do it for my size. I was like, I don't care if I'm not big enough. I'm gonna get this done anyway. You know what I mean? But as I was going through, I still wasn't able to have the story that I wanted with sports. And then I thought it was because I wasn't big enough. And then my last season, I was like, I'm gonna try this whole eating more thing. And I gained 40 pounds in 3 months.
Jeez.
Yeah, I didn't know what.
You didn't stop eating.
I did not stop eating. It was 6 days, basically wake up at 5 a.m., eat like a half a jar of peanut butter, go to workout. It was like a regimented 6-7 day, like eating nonstop.
Like practice, all that still going into.
Yeah. So I had training. I was working 2 jobs my senior year. So it was like this regimented thing. And luckily I was dating my now wife at the time who loved cooking. So she was very helpful in that regard. So yeah, I gained the weight. I got to the strongest I'd ever been. I thought I finally figured it out. Like, I'm going to have the career that I wanted. And I was hurt left and right that entire season. I played every single game, but I was walking around with elbow braces, knee braces, ankle braces. And I was just like, what? I figured it out. Why isn't it working? Then I was slower. My year prior, it was a lot better. And it was just like this whole process of like, why did I suck so bad? And then by some miracle, I got invited to play in a D2 college bowl in Mexico, which was really, really cool. It was very interesting, right? Because I did not have the career to get invited for that. So I went down there, played, and when I got back, I got invited to go train in Denver for a Pro Bowl, or not Pro Bowl, a Pro Day. And I got invited to Vegas, and I was training really hard. And this is where I first figured out personal training was a real thing, because I just figured you go to practice and you go to weights and you just get better. I didn't know you could train outside of those facilities. And they trained me for a few months to kind of get me ready. And I maintained the weight. I actually gained another 15 pounds. So my heaviest, I was about 250, somewhere around there. But then I was around actual athletes that like all-American athletes. And
there's a difference when it comes into like they don't in high school. I don't think they really teach you about nutrition when it comes into because I was in the
weights.
I was in the football squad and it was like this. You got the weights and then you got the running the plays. Like no one ever taught you how to like even when I was in wrestling. Like no one taught you we go to Taco Bell right after like practice.
Yep.
And even the game like you wouldn't. It's so. I wish I could just go back, like with the mindset I had now, and then just be like, "You guys are complete idiots." Like everybody was hurt.
Sorry, speaking of which, you did teach at a school once, didn't you?
I did.
About some of the nutrition aspects.
Yeah, and that was a really exciting thing because I never had that whatsoever. Yeah. Like you were saying, I would go Chipotle, Taco Bell, KFC. I didn't know what
it's
food
the
was.
One thing I felt like if you add to like I know they had. You could take a nutrition class, like a 30-minute, what are they called? Like when you just, what are the add-on classes? It's been a while.
Just kind of like an elective.
Like elective. But they didn't, like no one actually taught you about nutrition. I think it was because it's such a sore subject. There's too many, there's no facts. Everything is like, if you believe this, you believe that. I think nutrition's developed later on in life, but back in our day when we first got into that, in high school, like they didn't teach us shit. Like it was always about lifting weights. Like that made you more of a man for how much you can lift, and no one gave a shit about how much you eat. And I think if we had that nowadays, how many great athletes you would have.
Drastically different.
Absolutely. In every sport.
Yeah. Seriously, that missing piece, that was another huge realization for me as I was going through that. Like, why didn't I know this before?
Right.
Like my career would have been so much different if I knew everything I knew now, right? But hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
And you can't do it, right? But all you can do is take what you learn and transition it to the person who might be able to go a little bit further than you did,
right?
Who you could have, right? And that's really as I was going through that process of understanding food, right? I was heavy, and I was around these all-American athletes, and they were just they were kicking the shit out of me. Like it was like just like in pure athleticism, I couldn't keep up, and that was the most frustrating thing because now I figured out, well, I'm here, I'm training. Where's my results? Where's my recruit? Like where are my offers to go play professionally? And then I go and I get lucky enough to find one. And it was just a Canadian like pro day in Vegas. I go down there. I'm my heaviest. I'm confident. I'm ready to go. I perform at my worst my entire life. I ran over a 5-second 40-yard dash, and at the defensive end, that is just no go. I lost every one-on-one drill that like was supposed to highlight what I was actually good at. I basically just flopped in every single scenario, and I just remember vividly sitting there on the hot turf. It was like 112 degrees on the turf, and I couldn't feel it. I was numb. I had felt like literally everything I worked so hard for, everything I attached my sport to, just get sucked out right from under me. And that was so, I felt hollow, just for a lack of a better term, because I had tied so much of what I knew about this world into one thing, because I didn't understand anything. Not only did I not understand food, but I didn't understand myself.
Right.
I didn't understand my body. And that was the biggest realization for me when I was in that, like, you know, in the movie, the Jordan Peele one, the first one. Get Out, right? When he sinks into the place.
The sunken place.
The sunken place. Yeah. Like that's how I felt in that moment. And that just like, it was mortifying. I didn't know who I was without this one thing.
Yeah.
And as I was coming home, the guys that trained me, they offered me a job, and I was like, well, I don't know what else to do. I have no other aspirations. It's literally gone. And that's really what opened the door to allow me to start figuring this stuff out. And started with fitness for me and understanding those pieces. And that's the thing. The more understanding I created, the more I was like, oh my God, like where has this been my whole life?
Yeah.
You know, operating like it felt like I was operating with blinders on the entire time. But as I started peeling back the layers and started with fitness for me, and like figuring out like why I wasn't as fast as I hoped, why I was chronically in pain, and figuring those pieces out, I was like, oh my God, I could help people. Now that I'm starting to understand this, like I could help figure this out for them, you know? And it was so like a spark happened. It started pulling me out of that sunken place. And I was like, I think I'm figuring out what I'm supposed to be doing here. Because when I was training, I felt like I needed to be at that facility. That like something was telling me I belong here. But it wasn't because it was going to take me to the next level athletically. It was to open the door to a career that allows me to give people the understanding that they need. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it's not like plain sight. Like not every you're not always the athlete. You can always be the doctor. You can always be. It's just like when you talk about movies, you're not always the actor, but you could be the grip. You could be the best boy. You could be anything you want. But it takes certain moments in your life to lead you in the right direction.
Exactly.
I've had two of those moments before. It was kind of mid high school when I was switching out of football. That was partly because I felt like the only reason why I was doing football was because of my stepdad, Tony, you know him. He was definitely a dude who's very, very passionate about it, but it didn't come out always in the best way.
Yeah.
Because I remember one game I was running, the team we were facing, they didn't have enough freshmen to face us, so they had some of their senior players come in. And I mean, when you're a freshman, you're looking at this dude who's just like 6 feet tall. Exactly. Yeah. I got hit, ball went, I fumbled it. My stepdad got so pissed that when he was driving home, he smashed his windshield with his fist because he was just frustrated about it. Yeah. So when him and my mom, they had split, I kind of saw it as a moment to like, all right, maybe I'm going to step away from football. I want to see kind of more of who I am. And, this doesn't feel like the only thing that there is.
Right.
That's when I found my buddy who was into music, and he started to show me that side. And that was one of those moments that clicked, and I just kind of rode with that. And then the second time was actually when we met up again in terms of fitness. Yeah. I was kind of in a stressful place in terms of where I was working. We kind of talked about it. And I knew I needed some sort of change, and that was kind of the peak rise of COVID too. So it was like, all right, not much is going on. I'm sitting with myself. I'm sitting with my thoughts. And it was a switch of like, the reason why I was in a bad spot was because I kind of felt like I was hating myself, but I was trying to make a switch to start loving myself more. And I knew that health was going to be a big one. I'd seen your posts. You were going through your transition, your phases, things like that. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to reach out to him. I'm gonna see if he can help guide me. And that's kind of that second switch that just carried me further.
Well, it's crazy is because like just one moment of turning on your phone or, taking a left instead of right can change everything.
Yeah.
So if you,
Oh,
I look back in my life all the time and I start realizing if I didn't see this one video, like it would be
If
my
he didn't
life.
post, I probably wouldn't have looked for a coach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It changes everything. I remember when I decided to go vegan because there's so much heart issues and there's so many health issues in my family. Like I was just kind of scrolling through the internet and I came across a firefighter talking about it at a TED Talk. And then he went to a firehouse and it had like one of the most, I think it was in Boston. It's like the highest rating heart disease professions is firefighters. And they did all their blood tests and their cholesterol levels and it was through the roof. Yeah. And he goes, me and my staff are going to make you guys plant-based food for 7 days straight. And we're going to provide all the food for you. You don't have to worry about anything. And they did a 7-day test. And then after the 7 days, all their cholesterol dropped over 100 points on their, and they were like the happiest it's ever been. And this isn't trying to throw vegan, but it's like when I watched that video and I was like looking back at my family who has heart issues, who have obesity issues, so it was like that one video changed a course of lifestyle 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's like, just fitness journey. Like if you want to be a CrossFit, you watch one video that kind of changes your life. But if you didn't see that one particular video, if you didn't meet that one particular person, if you didn't go to that one particular spot, that fork in the road, if you go left, right, or straight, that changes the course of action. And we go through that hundreds and hundreds of times a day. Mm-hmm. So it's like some of them are just bigger loops that kind of spread off like branches, but it's crazy how it turns out with you guys meeting and us meeting, and like that kind of formation is we learn knowledge from you. We learn knowledge from you, hopefully from me as well. But just that one call saying, hey, I should do this, and changes your course of action. Yeah. And I think that going through your story, you can see each and every choice of what if you didn't go to the pro day, and go to Mexico. What if you didn't, Eminem has the best thing is when he went to, before he became famous, he was at the underground, the championship he was supposed to go to.
Those rap battles.
Yeah. And I think he was at the championship battle or it was to meet Dr. Dre.
Pretty sure it's the championship to win to meet Dr. Dre.
Yeah, and it was he slept through his alarm. And, like there was a moment where it's like the whole thing could have been completely done. Yeah. It could have been never happened. We could never have, one of the greatest rappers of all time, but everybody goes through those moments and it's crazy because you can see who took those opportunities and who didn't. Mm-hmm. And that's what kind of separates the ordinary to the 5%, mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's crazy when you think like you don't know it in those moments. You have zero idea. It's not until you look back and say, holy crap. If that didn't happen, I would not be where I am today. And that's why I'm grateful for everything that I've been through. I've been through the ringer. Yeah. And, like my personal development started in 2019. Right after I lost football, I was kind of finding those understandings. And then, COVID hit and I was just left with a lot of questions that were unanswered. And I was just looking myself in the mirror. Even though like now where I'm at, I'm super happy. It took a lot of work to get here. And not only was fitness and nutrition were the first pieces, but they were really the catalyst to dive into where I actually come from, right? Because my journey started in 2019, like my personal growth started, but it was always kind of, my life was leading me there. I had no idea about how Tony was outside of when we saw him, right? Because he's a very cordial person, but Rudy was my stepdad. Fun fact. My father's actually in prison right now for murder, and then my stepdad after that was very verbally abusive and physically abusive to me and my mom. And there was always these constant reminders as a child that I knew who I didn't want to be, and it was these male figures that I had that would cause nothing but suffering. But I wasn't aware of that until I started actually looking back at these things, and I was like, I know who I don't want to be. I know who I don't want to be. And the process of finding out who you do want to be is a process of elimination. Right. Once you strip away all the stuff that makes you, that really doesn't align with who you are, it starts to open the door to the things that you actually value and actually resonate with who you are. And as I was going through like 2019 and 2020 especially, and I was just like facing all these things, I was reading books. I started reading Tony Robbins. I started reading Atomic Habits. I started reading what was it? David Goggins' book. I read so much.
See?
So much.
Some people like David Goggins. David Goggins helps a lot of people out.
There's so much.
If I ever have David Goggins on the show, you're not allowed to be in it.
It's not a transformation
You're not
of
allowed to be in
veganism.
that show.
It's a transformation of
You're not allowed to be in
accepting
that
David
show.
Goggins. Okay.
Oh man, we'll talk about him in a minute. But there's so many. Lewis House, especially. You guys know Lewis House?
Yeah.
He
The
helped.
greatness, the
School of Greatness, Masks of Masculinity.
Yeah.
That was so powerful for me because it allowed me to start stripping away all the pieces that were given to me by people who I didn't value, right? And again, fitness and nutrition was just the catalyst to us seeing those sides of like, holy crap, I've been living a life like I was only so into football because I was given it.
Right.
I get that.
I was only like you were. I was told, or not essentially told, but I learned.
It's encouraged a lot. Yeah.
It's encouraged a lot, right? If you want to feel valued, if you want to feel loved, you will perform in football.
Yep. You'll do good, then you'll go to NFL and things
Exactly,
like that. And
yeah.
you start to build those steps.
It's not yours,
Yeah.
it's mine, right? And that's what I was. That's what I. And when you're a kid and you're developing, you don't know this.
Yeah.
You're just. What are the rules of existence, right? And we take these beliefs that we just accept because we're given them. And we take them through our entire lives, and this is what makes it really difficult for people if they're struggling with their health and their well-being. They're operating off of rules that they've lived by for the vast majority of their lives. It's not just the fact that they could be motivated for 6 weeks and lose a lot of weight. Is it worth losing 40 pounds in 6 weeks if it just comes right back off?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not actually addressing
You
the
got to
fact
build the
that
habits.
exactly. I mean, you're not addressing the actual problem that you don't understand yourself. You're operating off of things that don't actually serve you. And it's through the process of understanding and stripping away those pieces, you start to realize, oh my God, I've been disconnected with who I am this entire time. And only through the resources that I had through Tony Robbins, Lewis Howes, Ed Milet, like those are the people that started giving me the perspective that I needed to hear so that I can start finding, oh, these are the resources, these are the things that I value, right? And this isn't with like, not to throw anybody under the bus, but this isn't with the overtone of my mom's voice in my head telling me that I need to do this in order to feel loved.
Yeah.
Right. It was like my voice started to come through as I kept uncovering these pieces. And the more you can do that, the more you can start understanding that line for you. I mean, we were just talking about before the extremes of nutrition where people just be full on zealots for their way of life and just completely condemn anyone who's not that way.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, there's a gray line.
Yeah.
And you have found an awesome place for yourself. That's awesome. But for you to completely chastise people who disagree with you is just not fair.
I think that's human nature, though. I
It
think
is.
it's with anything. If you're doing something I'm not doing, I'm going to bash you for it. That's the people's philosophy. If you have the same nutritional, like as a vegan, I get it a lot of times, and I know vegans do it more than anybody. Like everybody just thinks that if you're not doing what I'm doing, you're wrong. And if you're not a Democrat or Republican, you're wrong. Like everyone has this weird obsession with being right, and without the knowledge, and that's crazy with nutrition, is there's so much leadway out there. There's been, I see them on memes all the time where, one day oatmeal is great for you and the other one, it's bad for you. Or avocado is good for you and then it's bad for you. But it's just about where you're getting your source. Just like if you're election time, it's where you're getting your source. You can make someone look like a piece of shit and you can make someone look like God. But it comes down to is no one cares about nutrition unless it's a problem. And that's why our medical bills are so high, and there's more people, getting liposuction or some type of drastic change to their body involving surgery, and then it comes all back, like you said.
I know when we started, I went from like completely doing nothing to 0 to 100. I started tracking food because we talked about that, and I built that up. And I literally tracked food every day, every meal, everything for an entire year straight. Didn't miss a day, hit that whole year. Now, is that going to be something someone else can fully sustain? Definitely not. But it was something that, he presented to me. I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump into this. I can do this. But I know if I look at some of my own clients, that's something that they definitely cannot achieve.
Right.
And that's fine. We can find different ways that works for them as well, too. But I know it's taking those moments like, all right, what is working for you? And then we build on that.
Well, let's go ahead and bring that up. So with you two going through your drastic change of environment and your body shape and the transformation in your body, tell me about some of the things that you guys kind of did. Because I know it's easy to go, we lost weight, lost 40, 50 pounds. what are some of the changes that you guys did? We'll start off with you first, Jonah. What are some of the changes that you did that kind of got you to the point where you are now? Let's do nutritional, because I think personal training, everybody knows, exercise, there's you could do a lot with it, but I think nutrition is a key factor to hit on.
Yeah, and it's so important to understand that when I first actually started understanding food, I didn't have the education I do now. I was just going off of, I had a friend who was a registered dietitian, and I had just been like researching like what macros might be.
Right.
And I was like, oh, in order to see the results that I'm looking for, because I was slowly losing the weight that I had gained from football, but I wasn't actually like improving my body composition the way that I had expected, right? So then I reach out to this registered dietitian. I said, hey, I've been learning about these macros. Like, this is my lifestyle. This is how much I weigh right now. This is my height. Like, could you help me out? She's like, yeah, I need to know much more about you. And back then, like, I didn't understand what that actually meant, right? But she said, but here's about a range. She gave me 3,000 total calories and the macros of 300 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs, 100 grams of fat. Okay. And I basically, I have a bit of a addictive personality when it comes to certain things. I'll get very compulsive. When like you tell me this is the line I need to walk, I will walk it. And I hit my numbers to a T. Never tracked ever in my entire life, but I found a food scale. I figured out how to do it, and I was just like on the money. I hit those numbers every single day. And in the moment, the only focus I had was improved body composition because I was getting ready for my wedding. I wanted to look the best I ever could. So I shed 30, 40 pounds in 7 months. I hit those macros to a T. And if I would drop a grain of rice off of my plate, I would go reweigh it. It was very compulsive, like not something I ever want for people, but this is just me figuring it out because I think this is what has to happen in order for me to see results. So I got down from about 245 to like 215, 8% body fat. And I had cut, I just kept cutting. Like when I wasn't seeing results fast enough, I just kept cutting calories, and it was carbs because in my head, carbs is what makes you fat.
Carbs are bad.
Oh my
God. Fat is bad.
Just
you live an unhealthy lifestyle.
Exactly.
My guy.
Yeah, it drives me nuts, man. But yeah, I got down to it, and for the wedding, I looked great. But then I showed up to my wedding day, and I was like, I can't enjoy any of this food. If I veer off from my macros, I'm gonna blow up again. I'm gonna go right back to that weight I was, And then I go on my honeymoon, and my wife, she wanted a chocolate croissant for breakfast, and I was like, that sounds amazing.
Can I smell your breath?
Yeah. Like I'm just like scratching the table and like just like
all right, crackhead.
Yeah, like I don't know if I could eat this. So I was terrified, And as I was coming back from, because we went to Telluride, and we were driving back. That's a long drive, 7 hours. Mm-hmm. I was just sitting in the car because she was asleep, and I was just thinking like that is not anything I would ever want anyone to go through in order to feel comfortable in their skin. Because I looked great. But now I was terrified of losing it.
Right.
It's like I've just built another box that I wanted to live in, right? So I was like, okay, how do I take what I learned from macros and how can I continue to apply it in a way that fits my lifestyle? And I haven't tracked a calorie since then because of how compulsive I was and how detrimental it was. But I took the philosophies, what I did learn was the portion sizes, how much protein is going to be in this meal, how many carbs are going to be in this meal, because I was so compulsive. And now I was just like, okay, I stay right around 208, 215, I feel comfortable. I maintain a good body composition. And I don't track calories because of what I learned. I was like, this is what's going to fit my lifestyle now.
Right.
And I take what I learned about calories and I just help people understand, like, it's not this end all be all. Like, you tracked for a year, right? Like, if someone hears that and they think that's what has to happen in order to see results,
for sure,
horrified.
Yeah,
right.
Some people are really good with the stat. They like that shit. They have to.
Oh, yeah.
They have to have it by the T, by the dollar. They have to track everything. And some of them, if you tell them, we had clients before. You're like, yeah, I just want to see 7 days of tracking.
Yeah,
just because some people don't know what food looks like on paper. They don't know they don't know, like, holy shit, I'm eating 4,000 calories and I'm wondering why I can't lose the weight. And then vice versa, I'm eating 2,000 calories and I can't gain the muscle. Yep. So a lot of people kind of get starstruck with that kind of shit. I don't know how you did it for a year. That would just.
I know that, like, when I did it, I was building into it. Like, I don't do any food tracking anymore now.
What, did you do it for a year because you were scared of?
No, more of it was, and like, I know it can easily think about tracking for a year. Maybe that's a bad kind of mindset. You're like, oh, I got to hit everything. I got to track this. I got to track that. For me, it was like, I'm making this transition. I'm going to go balls to the wall to make sure that I'm actually dedicated to this. Because I know sometimes you're like, I want to make this change. And then you do a little bit and you're like, maybe not. And you just kind of tailor off.
Right.
I was like, I paid for this. I'm with this guy. We're in it. I'm doing it. Whatever he says. So he said it. I hit it. I just did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't do any food tracking anymore. But I'm glad I did that year because it did help me build such a huge awareness around what I was eating and how I was eating.
Well, food tracking isn't an issue. Like, I don't tell people not to track their food.
Right.
But if the people are like, they feel like that's the only way, or that's the way that's going to scare the crap out of them.
Definitely not the only way, but yeah.
If you have a lot of people who are in like in sports athletes, they track a lot of their food. Like, you got to think fighters, you have to manage your weight.
Yeah.
And I think it's very smart to know what food looks like. So tracking your food isn't bad, but being obsessed over anything, like if you create a budget for financing and you're obsessed with that, you lose the factor of life around it.
Yeah.
You lose the fun. And if it's no longer fun, your higher chances of quitting is going to be drastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing when it comes to just helping people understand what their life looks like after they're at a certain goal, right? If they are practicing something that they don't plan on doing, or they don't have an exit strategy, like, the results, they don't last.
Right.
No matter what, be it health and fitness, be it finance, whatever it is. If you dread it, you can operate off of hate for a pretty long time. But if we're drawing this out for a lifetime, like if you had to agree to track for the rest of your life, like,
at the level I was, no.
No, right? So why would we practice that kind of behavior, that kind of relationship with it? And it's getting people, and you said it, like, the most important thing someone needs in order to make massive change in their life is awareness.
Yeah. They have to find out what the problem is.
Exactly. They have to find the actual problem, right? Because when you're aware, then you can start understanding it. And you can actually get to the root of it. And then when you understand it, you can build belief that you can actually change. Yeah. And then when you have the belief, you build momentum. And you start seeing the fact that you don't have to be miserable in order to see things, because you're starting to understand it in the language that you need to, right? With nutrition, if you think you have to go vegan, if you have to count your calories, if you have to we are inherently, like, stubborn beings as humans. And if we have to do anything, we're going to rebel.
We're going to fight against it.
We're going to fight against it, right? But then we need to move away from that. I have to do this, or you have to do this, and find, what do you get to do? What allows you to feel like yourself again?
Yeah.
And when you find that line, it gets so much easier.
You learn how to mix things into life easier.
It actually goes back to, like, parents. It goes back to your environment.
Yes.
Because normally, if your parents don't have a very healthy eating habit, you're not going to have it. And it's very hard to break it, especially when you have the same health. I've had people come in and they were just like, they've had the same eating habits for 30 years, and you're going to tell me I'm doing it wrong?
Yeah.
So a lot of people will fight that urge of changing. A lot of people who sign up for, if you guys sign up for training, personal training, like, they're okay with the exercise. They'll show up and do it. But them following the rules and regulations that need to be done at first with nutrition, it's very hard, because either you're not a good coach or you're not a good listener. So you're not a good teacher, or you're not a good student. So if you have a good teacher to explain what nutrition is, instead of saying just eat healthier, or just eat some greens, or just have your
veggies,
protein,
that's it.
just eat your protein. You're like, well, do you know how much protein's in chicken? Do you know how much is in steak? How much do you need by the day? How much do you weigh where's the ratio of protein? Like, you got to make it fun. And if you don't make it fun, then a lot of people suffer from it's just another thing I have to follow. I go to work, I do all that stuff, and now I have to do another job, which is the most important job in the whole world, which is yourself. You can't save someone else without saving yourself. You can't, on a plane, you got to put the mask on first before you give it to someone else. So when it comes to nutrition, let's say if someone wants to gain 10 pounds of muscle, what are some of the advices that you would give them to kind of get you on that right path?
Oh, man, I start everyone, no matter what the goal is, right, is like, we just need to pay attention first. Like, like you said, like, I just need to see what a week in your life looks like, so we can address the behaviors and the ratios that you actually have in your diet. If muscle is the goal and you're only eating about 50 grams of protein a day, like, it's going to be very difficult for you to see your goal. And, like, by paying attention, like, that very first week, just create that awareness of, like, this is where I'm currently at. Right. And once you have that roadmap, then we actually make the tweaks for you, right? Because we can talk about the actual specific numbers of how much you need to be eating in order to see the results, but they're entirely dependent on where you're currently at, what your lifestyle looks like, and how we can adjust moving forward, right? So the first week is just pay attention to what you're intaking, right? Whether it's tracking calories or keeping a food journal, whatever. I give people food journals just so they're not only paying attention to how much they're eating, but how they feel around it. So then they can start building more awareness of like, this food actually serves me and I can add it more in my diet consistently. And this food does not serve me. And then they can reduce that amount of food, not because it's bad, but it just doesn't work for them. And after we have that understanding, then we start to make the adjustments based off of, okay, ideally, we're just going to talk portions here. This is what I try to get to people. Somewhere between 2 to 4 servings of vegetables a day, 1 to 2 servings of fruit a day. And
do you do the hand?
Yeah,
I do hand measurements.
About palm serving of protein. I do a lot of plate portions as well. So if half the plate is going to be some sort of vegetable, leafy green, quarter plate's protein, which could be about a palm size, and a quarter plate's going to be a complex carb, like any carb that comes from the ground. So potatoes, beans, quinoa, all that fun, rice, all that stuff, right? And just to give people an idea of like, okay, this is what we're generally aiming for. It's not the rules, not the law, but this is what's going to help us understand
guideline
where we need to go. It's a guideline, right?
I know that's how we started.
Yeah, exactly. It's a guideline. This is just what we're seeing, what works for you based off of what you say you want to do.
I remember a breakfast change. You were like, yeah, try something high in protein and fat. I was like, this doesn't work for my body. I feel like shit. I'm not getting the energy I need. I tried protein, carbs, and that just boosted my days. We're cruising.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when you can pinpoint that and be like, this works for me, I don't want to change anything. Stay doing that, because the more we can attach, I like this way, right? Before we even get to the numbers, then it starts to make sense of how you can come back to this. Like when you're having a rough day, like you tracked for a year, there was probably some times where you did not want to track.
Oh yeah.
Right? Where life is punching you in the face. And the most important skill that anyone can learn is when life is punching you in the face, how do we punch it back and make sure that we're still standing in the way that we can, the best way we can, for our ultimate goal. Right? And it doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe you miss 1 or 2 days of tracking. That's okay. But you have a much better understanding because you started with awareness of what foods served you, so that all you had to do was go back to those things that made you feel good and then build that momentum back up. Yeah. Right? And that's what, like, the first 2 weeks is like, okay, what are we currently doing? Okay, these are where we want to go based off of your goals. Now let's understand quantity. Right? Because now we have quality starting to improve, right? When people start improving the quality of their food, they're getting more vitamins, minerals, amino acids in their system. Fiber. Oh my God, fiber.
Yeah. People don't understand. Like, I know protein is always going to be the top topic to a lot of people, but 98% of Americans especially get enough protein. Fiber, 2% of people get fiber, and fiber can change the whole way your body can digest the food, break it down, send it to where it needs to go, feel full. And that's the problem. That's the nail on the head right there. Is fiber is 2% of Americans, probably even the whole world, get enough fiber. And if you increase the fiber,
it's crazy.
The problem is the biggest problem I see is when you say increase fiber, they'll do the soluble, they'll add the powders, the fake stuff, which can be beneficial, but in long term, it's not gonna. You got to get through food, you got to get through vegetables.
That's like protein powder. Look, you can supplement, preferably let it come from food first.
Yeah, I don't look at it as I don't look at it like it's called a supplement, but I don't supplement protein with it. It's an add-on. That's how you got to look at it. But I've seen people do 3 shakes a day to do, and like, no, like it's protein. It's gonna build your muscle. It's gonna help build recovery. Yeah, there's people just like liquidness, but liquid protein can act in the muscles faster, but also it's not long term. So food is going to be long term. If you have chicken, steak, or tofu or tempeh, whatever, longer food, that protein kind of rebuilds and recovers faster, but longer. That instant type of protein or fiber can be beneficial like day to day, but if you rely on that shit, then you're gonna have it's gonna backfire on you.
Yeah, because you're missing out on that's just protein. Yeah. That's just solid protein that's good for protein synthesis in your muscles. But you're missing out on the amino acid profile that actual animal or just any like high quality protein sources going to provide.
Creatine from it as well.
Yeah,
creatine, glutamine, you got a bunch of things that
if you're eating enough protein from your food, you don't have to take most supplements.
Yeah.
You'll save yourself so much more money.
Yeah, it's scary if like growing up as an athlete, like when you open people's cupboards and you see 20 pill bottles and you see bottles and just scooping and scooping, like athletes, I get it, because you have to endure more, but like
Certain
average
ones, yes.
Joes,
Yes.
because if you have an endurance athlete, they have to do way more supplementation than a lot of people. Look at triathletes. Like you're 5 hours on the bike, you're doing 4 hours on the road, you're doing two hours in the swim. You have to be
like
replenishing.
that fight with BCAAs.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why endurance athletes they're slimmer. They considered maybe skinnier or whatever. They're toned as fuck though. But like the amount of calories they burn off and the amount of minerals and vitamins their body needs to do a high performance. But just average Joe people, it's just so easy. But I think in our mind we have that we make it more complicated than what it is. Just like it's like the psychology of money. Like that book right there. It's like we make it more complicated. Have you ever like scared to open up your phone to check your credit card statement?
Oh, yeah.
Or check, your debit card, how much money? You're scared to do it, but as soon as you do it, the fear's gone.
It's not even
it's
that,
the same thing with food. It's like if you have an apple or a Snickers right next to each other, majority of people are like, it's just one thing, and then it builds and builds and builds. It's that healthy habit that you kind of have to create for yourself. But like you said, you got to start with you. It's easy to build the habit, it really is. But you got to figure out what are we forming around that? What's the key problem?
Yeah.
If you're a smoker and you put a nicotine patch on, you're not solving the problem. Are you a very stressed out person? Do you have so much stress in your life where you have to smoke every single day? Then you have to figure out how to solve those problems, and then you have a better chance of keeping longevity in that habit.
Build the habit of food tracking to build food awareness.
Yeah.
Right. You
Which
did it
the
for a year.
awareness, yep.
You did it for a year. Don't have to do it again.
Exactly.
Never again. Yeah.
It's a small sacrifice for you to feel comfortable and confident in your choices that you make for yourself.
Right.
Because you actually create the understanding of what CJ needs, right? And you hit the nail on the head. Most of us make this a lot harder than it needs to be just because we don't understand. We think the weight is going to solve our problem, but the outcome will solve our problem. That's not the case.
Right.
Like anything in health and fitness is a lot easier than you think it is. If your goal is weight loss, if it's building muscle, it's a lot easier than you think it is after you get over the hump of what you need to understand, right? If you suck with stress management, your sleep is horrible, if your digestion's terrible, if you have a horrible relationship with food, right? That's what you're fighting against. You can be motivated for a period of time to ignore those things.
Long ago,
Yeah, you can suppress those and like I can live like this forever. But again, life is gonna find a way to pull you back to those things. Those roots will come back.
Yeah.
And they'll pull you right back to everything that you've been doing before. And that's what the hardest part is that we have to address what we need first.
Right.
And once you feel better first, and then we understand the mechanics of weight loss, of building muscle, whatever it is, the mechanics are so easy because then you get to a point where you feel good and it's just do it over and over again. But everyone knows this.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things I've ever learned from Alex Hormozi was that we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught.
Right.
And that's the most frustrating thing is like, this is it. Once you're on the other side is like, I just keep doing this. Like you just keep doing it. This
makes me think of still like an artist. He's like, everything's already been said, but nobody was listening. So you gotta say it again.
Yeah, well, it's not like no podcast, no book you see nowadays is formulated a new plan. This has been hundreds of years. Yeah, we've adapted, we've changed a little bit here and there. Back we had the food pyramid, now it's the circle. Food plate, the portion sizes changed. We've adapted to it, but just understanding the core aspect of and this is something I want to get into individually is figuring out what creates that habitual guidelines around things that make you a better person. Sleep, movement, nutrition, social gathering, and I'd say probably your finances. You know, if you get those, you find true happiness. But it's understanding why are these so important? Why is nutrition so important? If they say is the carb the energy or is the fat the energy? It doesn't matter. It depends on your body.
Yeah.
Some people handle carbs a lot better. Some people fat better. Protein, no one's ever gonna, that's kind of an untouched barrier. Like, depending on your, size or what you want to do or your weight. And a lot of people derive on that weight. Like when someone says, I want to lose weight, okay, that's not the problem. Like losing the pounds is like that you can take supplementation forever and you can lose the weight. It's like, how do you get healthier? How do you lose the weight in a healthy aspect?
To maintain that, yeah.
Right. So it's a mindset. It's like, I don't want to lose something. I want to gain health.
Right.
Because it's easier to, it's mentality wise, you think it's easier to lose something, to get rid of something.
Like I've lost the weight, but the biggest challenge was how do I keep that weight off? And I had to figure out some things because I went up a little bit. I kind of hit hard because I was like, oh God, I'm going to go right back to where I was. I just had to take that time to find that balance.
But if you did and vice versa, like if you understood nutrition
for sure
and then attempted to lose the weight, you don't have to worry about gaining that weight unless you have some type of tragedy. But a lot of people want to go, I want to lose the weight. And then they have to worry about maintaining it. Now they have to learn about nutrition. But if you understand the nutrition aspect of it, whatever goal you want to accomplish, 10 times faster.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to take that opportunity of trying to understand what true nutrition can do to you. It's not even just losing the weight or gaining muscle. Like your mood, the way you treat people, the way you act, your energy levels. If you're getting tired at 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. after work, whatever, we are the greatest creation in the world, the human body, and yet we need to take a nap at 2 o'clock. Want to is one thing. Need to is a different story. Yeah. Albert Einstein took a nap every hour and a half.
Yeah.
Just because he knew his mind was the best. 30-minute nap, boom, boom, he was always good. But we're taking naps at 2 o'clock because we're so exhausted and we're tired.
I think it's funny too. In the past, I used to have that hangry feeling, but now I've never felt that since.
Right.
It's more of like, I'm good. I'm fine. I can fast for a long time. I don't get angry. I don't feel any discomfort or hate. My body's just kind of fast and it's doing its thing.
Right. And people think that the hangry is because you haven't eaten yet.
Yeah.
The hangry is because you don't have the vitamins and minerals that your body needs. Because intermittent fasting, like a lot of people like my brother, he's so funny. My older one, he has to eat. A lot of people have to eat as soon as they wake up. They have to eat as soon as they wake up or they're going to be in a bitchy mood all day. But it's like, it's not the food, it's the minerals. It's like, that's why I like mineral water. If you have that first thing in the morning, as a person, I intermittent fast pretty much every day, I do intermittent fasting. So I have that time period of when I need to eat and the 2 times. But when it comes down to it, is like, I don't feel that hangry or that angry moment anymore. It's because you figured out the solution. It wasn't the food that made me feel. In fact, I felt food made me more tired. Like a lot of people, like the standard American breakfast is, you go to Denny's, you get fucking pancakes, hash browns, some eggs, and some
Orange
sausage,
juice.
400 grams of carbs, and now you're tired.
Yeah.
So, and I hated feeling that feeling. So you start picking pieces from other people. I think Tom DeLore taught me about intermittent fasting, about like the time restricted diets and all that stuff. But just finding out what benefits you. And then just kind of like, just understand it, figure it out, research it. I think a lot of people don't want to research anymore. They just want to go, hey, what's my answer?
Yeah.
Like all body types are the same. You could buy $12. You could buy someone's workout video or their PDF and you're like, where's my results? I'm not getting what you're getting. Well, because you don't have the same body type.
Yeah.
You haven't been doing it for 10 years. You've been doing it for 2 days or 10 days. So it's like understanding that nutrition and like what makes that person different from everybody else. You got to find out who you are in life,
Yeah. It starts like when I was going through my just general understanding of myself, I had no idea how food affected me differently. I tried intermittent fasting. I tried low carb. I tried all these things. And every time I had a different response.
Right.
And I was like, holy crap. There's so many different things that could happen based off what I do, what I put in my body. And that was exciting to me. Where a lot of people see that as anxiety. They don't want to think about what they have to put in.
Well, look at the grocery. Like if you go to the groceries, like there's 1,000 different cereals or coffees. A lot of people are like, oh, the same one over and over again. Some people like to try new stuff, whatever, to kind of like, add that little, like, what do I like? Same thing with nutrition. It's okay to change. If you want to try the vegan diet, if you want to try a pescatarian diet, if you want to try an paleo, or if you want to try keto, try it out. But do the research when you do it, because I've seen a lot of people try
I think
keto.
It should be tried just for experience and less like, all right, I'm gonna do paleo just because that's gonna get me the weight off and I'm gonna feel great.
Right, but
like,
but take that. It takes time, you know. People want the instant gratification, and if they don't get it, then they're gonna go back to the way they were.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Is people, they feel like they're uncomfortable with their situation in their body, and then they do a little bit of, not even a research. They watch a video, they see an article that, and I fell prey to it a lot because when I was uncomfortable in my state, I was like, what's going to be the one thing that's going to give me the actual result that I wanted? And I was not ready yet to accept the fact that I had to try a bunch of stuff to figure that out. Because hopefully you have the answer. Hopefully you'll have the answer for me. But in reality, you have to interpret a lot of different messages in order to find what resonates with you. And I think that's a really hard thing for people, is that like we're already living pretty stressful and chaotic lives, and most of us are very good at putting ourselves on the back burner. And the idea of having to take time to really understand ourselves when we're already like using most of our mental energy to make sure the kids are getting taken care of, making sure our job's taken care of, make sure the bills are being paid, all these things that we're like, well, this is more important than myself. It's like, now you're telling me I have to add another chore to my list of understanding food.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you got a lot going on. That's totally fine. You don't have to change everything. Something small is better than nothing at all.
Right.
Right. And it's the most important thing is you don't have to do anything as long as you understand where you're going.
Well, it's a mindset.
Yeah. It's so mindset.
I have to do this.
Yeah.
No, I want to do this. I want to learn. And if that one person can change themselves, if just like as a parent, if you took the opportunity to learn nutrition or learn about exercising, and now you can deliver it to your kids, and they can deliver it to their schoolmates, and then you can deliver it to your coworker, and then it just opens up a wide variety of possibility of if it's not broken, you don't have to worry about fixing it. But if you wake up every day and you feel like shit, like there's a reason why.
I think that's the only reason why I tracked for the year. It was like, I want to do this.
Right.
I'm going to track. I'm going to do it all. I think too, a lot of people get scared in building this kind of routine, and they think they'll lose a sense of freedom out of it. I think I started to find that freedom, and I could then branch out, no longer have to track food, and I can go out with family, go to Denver Biscuit Co. and enjoy something crazy.
Right.
I'm going
but
there
I can
after
work
this,
with
by
it.
the way.
There you go. But yeah, that routine is huge.
Yeah.
But it didn't start just right off the back. I didn't start tracking right away. It started with the small portions. That's something I could do. Then it started with, you know what, today I'll pre-make a meal and I'll have it ready for tomorrow. And then getting the scale, and then slowly building up to the food tracking.
It's so simple. It's so simple. And I think that's another huge thing. I feel like I've said a lot about it. That's the thing. That's the thing. There's a lot of it depends. Like those small adjustments you were able to make, right?
Yeah.
When you were just figuring this out, right? Like that's what the real progress is. Those small adjustments, right? We think about the transformation's most important process.
For sure.
It's not.
It's the journey.
It's the journey. It's the byproduct of all the small choices that you made, right? And if I were to, whenever I'm working with somebody, I always ask them, like, if we lose weight in 3 months, you get to your goal. If I snap my fingers and we're at your goal weight, are all your problems gone? The answer is always no, it's not, right? Because they've been down that road. Most people have been down that road. And the actual problem is they try to go all in, or they try to change everything all at once. Like there's nothing wrong with going all in on yourself. But if you're not ready, if you don't have that if you're trying to play level 10 when you're on level 2, like that's why you're trying to jump too far.
Do you get clients that go from like 0 days in the gym and they're like, I want to do 5 days?
Yep. And I always pull them back. I'm like, hey, that's cool.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's a difference between idealistic and realistic.
Yeah.
And you need to start with realistic to
It's a
prove
good
yourself
mindset.
right. Yeah, it's great.
I know for me personally, any new clients I get, I tell them, hey, look, these first 3 months, we're not going to even talk about food. You just keep what we're at right now. I'd rather you build this consistency coming in here first. Once I know you're in here first and you're enjoying it, then we'll dive into food, and that's how we'll really click things in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you get someone comes in, they're like, I'm gonna hit it all day. I'm already food tracking. I'm doing all this. You're like,
you haven't been in the gym in 5 years.
Yeah. Like we need to take a second and slow it down.
Yeah.
That's another thing to think about when you're talking to somebody in that situation. It's like, what have your last 5 years looked like?
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm gonna solve my weight loss problem in the next 3 months. So okay, we have 5 years of a behavior that hasn't been actually aligned with what you want to do. You're not going to fix it in 3 months. Like you've been practicing that for a while. And if we don't understand that we need to take this one step at a time, start with the fitness, start with the nutrition, start with your mindset. Like you don't have to do it all at the same time. You don't have to make everything, because the likelihood of you sustaining that is just going to drop.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not just the gym. It's your whole life outside of it too. I remember I was asking someone, they're like, why do you need to know all this? Because it all plays a key factor in how consistent you're going to be in here, and how likely you are to make changes outside of here too.
Yeah.
And like you can come in here being intense as you want, but that doesn't guarantee change afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. How do you walk somebody back when they're in the throes of that process and they want to just keep just going, like running headstrong into the brick wall?
Depend. Like I've had one client. She came in. She was enjoying it. We were kind of building up a little bit. We started to talk about food a little bit, and then something happened in her life, and she kind of felt like she was breaking down. And I was like, okay, we're not going to worry about food again. I'd rather you just come in at least this one day with me, and we can sit, we would talk, we would just do light workouts. And I guess it was more of like a therapy session for her. She can just vent, she can move. And usually everybody, once they start to at least move, they feel better. They're like, okay, this was rejuvenating. Mm-hmm. And then we slowly get back to our 2 days again. And then once we feel comfortable, once there's, again, that's more that stress management. Mm-hmm. How much stress do you have on your life right now? Too much, you're not going to be able to handle this other change that we try to make, because these are all stressors. Mm-hmm. But even if they're good, so we would take our time, kind of ease back into it in that aspect.
Once you connect the dots for that person to see that these are all stressors, these are all having a negative impact, but this one thing right here, this one thing that helps you feel better, right? We're not training super hard. You know, we're walking on the treadmill, we're doing light workouts, you're just venting, you're getting out of your head. Oh, I feel so much better. So you're taking care of yourself in that moment. And
build that good environment.
Exactly.
Well, that's why journalism works so well. Is you got to get out of your head. You got to get the whatever you're thinking about, whether if it's just life goals in general. Like it helps out so much when I write down something first thing in the morning and write down either what I want to do in the day or just a thought or my problem. Because when you make it realistic, when you make it tangible, when you can see it like on paper, the chances of solving that issue is just so much higher than just keeping it in your head, because you can't see. It's always going to be there. It's that thought that just kind of bottles up in my head. If I'm like, oh, you gotta do this today, I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. But it's on paper. Like you wrote a page about it. It's like it's obviously a bigger problem than what it needs to do. But now you can see it and you can fix it. You know. And same thing with nutrition. It's like if you make things easy for you to get, like let's say if you have, that's why the most common thing is putting a bowl of fruit on the counter. It's because it's there, it's seeing it. But what happens, we put them in containers, we put them in the bottom. We have all that the junk food, easy access. It's like you gotta plan for success. You gotta put yourself in a situation where you can succeed without even trying. Hiding the junk food, putting up healthy food, you win your goal. Putting your duffel bag of your gym clothes by the door, you win your goal. It's making it easy. That's why Atomic Habits was such a big mind-blowing thing.
The best things happen automatically.
The book isn't revolutionized. Like he did make adjustment periods to it from where he learned it from, but it was just make it easy. Mm-hmm. Have the reward at the end, but make it easy. With anything in life,
finances, I'll have it come straight from my bank into my savings. I don't even think about it.
It just goes automatic.
Right there. Exactly.
Yeah,
it's just so automated, so I don't have to even one thought about it.
Right. Yeah. As you were talking, I was like, you're just like Atomic Habits was one of the most influential books.
You put me onto that book. Yeah,
it was literally like when I was running my own business before I'm at where I was at now. That was like that. Start with why were the most influential like things in my entire coaching arsenal. To just help people understand when you set your environment up for that, to make it easier for yourself to want to do these things, you see them more often. Like I said earlier, you need to be reminded more than you need to be taught.
Right.
And once you have those reminders, that's like, oh, my duffel bag's there. Oh, I can go. Right. It's already set up for me. Oh, the fruit's right there. My the junk food's harder to reach. Like all those, we're lazy.
Yeah.
If we make the not serving, the not so aligned decision harder to make, right, we will make the much more aligned decision. And I like to say aligned and not aligned more, because I want to remove the good and bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because if we always have good and bad, then we have this constant like, I've been so good all the time. I've been so good all the time. I deserve to be bad.
Worse when you're
They call it a cheat day.
Yeah. What do you associate cheating with?
Yeah.
Everything that's bad.
Yeah.
Like, this is my normal day.
Yeah. This is a off day. That's okay. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna go back and do what I like doing, because it aligns with what I want in my life, what I want for my health and my fitness, and I don't want to live in this tiny little bubble anymore. And it comes down to that thought process that really gets in the way of everybody of what you want to accomplish. Thinking of water right now.
Yeah, I know, right? Tell me about it. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up the episode. So let's go ahead and, if you could, as a coach, as a nutritionist, if you can give the advice to someone listening right now that wants to change, we won't give it a necessarily a goal in mind, but if it wants to change some of the habits that they want to do, we'll stick with, training or coach or personal training or just exercise and nutrition. What are some of the key elements that they should start looking into before they start reaching out or trying to make those changes?
My most important thing that I think most people just need to understand is that awareness piece. We touched on it in the beginning, right? We just need to be aware of where we're currently at. So before you go reaching out and trying to find the solution to your situation when it comes to your goal, figure out where you are at. Because if you do that, you're gonna drastically reduce the amount of time it's gonna take for you to get to where you want to go. Because you're gonna start to see the path for you, right? If you have a hard time finding movement, if you eat out most of the time, right? If you're not drinking enough water and your sleep sucks, like understanding those and just facing the reality is going to make a much bigger impact. And then once you understand, okay, these are my actual problems, my specific problems, not just the number on the scale or what I'm not seeing in the mirror, like those are cool. But if we understand where we're at, you're going to be so much more likely to get to those byproducts of improving your daily habits. It's just understand where you are at right now and take the action that you need to take and make sure that it's manageable, make it realistic, make it easy. Because if you can do that, this whole process will not be like a rat race where you're like, I tried everything under the sun, I didn't see any results. Well, you tried everything that didn't work for you in that moment.
Right.
So let's skip that part and get to the point where I want to understand myself better than I ever have before and understand that your current setbacks so that we can address those and then make it much more sustainable when it comes to the mechanics later. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, before we sign off, let's go ahead and mention your project that you're doing, your transformation on your Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and tell me what that's about.
Yeah. So I am a head coach for a company called the Transformation Project, and the goal is to change 1 million lives by providing a lot of understanding around nutrition and where they're currently at. So yeah, I work with an awesome team of coaches that is really designed to help not only facilitate the habits of making nutrition a much more sustainable part of your life, but again, taking the pieces that most people need to understand is how do they live right now and how do they want to live, right? What are their goals? What clarity do they need to provide for themselves so that they can ultimately live a much more aligned life with where they want to be, and then live a happy and healthy life alongside those things. So essentially it's just about, like I said, providing that clarity for people that you don't have to track for a year to see results. You don't have to be a vegan or carnivore or anything. Like, you don't have to do anything that doesn't align with who you are. And then once we clear that up and we understand you, then we can put the pieces together that are going to help you find success for ultimately the long run. Because the most important, my number one goal, and I'm sure you'll remember this, CJ, is I don't want you to need me anymore. I want you to be able to do this for yourself. And that's really the power of what we get to do over at the Transformation Project. And it's a lot of fun, man.
That's awesome. Where can people find you?
Well, again, thank you so much, both of you, for having me on and allowing me to hopefully shed some light on a few things. But I appreciate the opportunity to share. I'm most active on my Instagram. It's Jonah Mitchell fit_nutrition. And then I also have a TikTok that's just Jonah Mitchell Fitness. And that's where I do a lot of my media, my video content. And then I also have a podcast, if you don't mind. It's called Rise Up with Jonah Mitchell, where I just talk. It's all health and fitness and simplifying this process and helping you rise up to your potential.
That's awesome, man. We'll have all that in the show notes. You can, nice little link described to kind of lead you in that right direction for anybody who wants to check it out, okay?
I appreciate it, guys. Thank
Absolutely,
you.
man. You guys. See you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in, and catch you on the next one.
Get out of here.
Bye.